Sirens sliced through the stillness of the night as my phone erupted with a series of sharp, merciless pings. Access revoked. Password changed. Board vote finalized. Each notification felt like a nail driven into the coffin of the life I had built from nothing. The glow of the kitchen island illuminated the words that would rewrite my future. Effective immediately, your employment is terminated. Signed, Frank Harper. My father-in-law, the same man I had turned into a millionaire, the same man who now ended me with a single sentence. For a few seconds, I just stood there, barefoot on the cold tile, phone trembling in my hand. The house was quiet except for the soft hum of the fridge and the faint white noise from the baby monitor in the next room. I opened my email again, hoping I'd misread. I hadn't. The company I'd built from a dusty garage office into a 7-figure restoration empire had just been stolen. By family. Frank's words on the final email echoed in my head. Family stays with family. Except apparently, I wasn't family anymore. 1 year earlier, everything looked perfect. Suburban New Jersey, cul-de-sac quiet, backyard barbecues, flags waving over manicured lawns. Frank's company had been small but stable, a modest local contractor repairing storm-damaged homes. I married his daughter, Sophie, and walked into the business with dreams bigger than the state itself. I brought modern software, city bid strategies, OSHA certifications, and digital systems that tripled efficiency. Within months, contracts poured in from schools, hospitals, and government projects. Frank's eyes gleamed like a man who'd just discovered gold. "You're the best thing that ever happened to this family," he told me over bourbon one night. I believed him. Then came the cuts, small, subtle at first. "Let Tyler shadow the bids," he'd said. "He should learn the ropes. Hand Tyler your vendor list. Put Tyler's name on your software patent. It's just paperwork." I'd laughed it off because that's what family does. You trust, you build, you share. But trust is a currency you don't realize is spent until the account hits zero. Now, standing in the half-light of our kitchen, I could feel that account draining. I opened the company dashboard, access denied. I tried our bank portal, error 403. Slack, email, cloud storage, gone. Vanished like I'd never existed. The refrigerator's hum grew louder, pressing in. My heart pounded like a war drum. Then Sophie appeared. Barefoot, wrapped in an oversized college hoodie, hair tied in a messy knot. "You're still up?" she whispered. Her voice was too calm, too careful. "They locked me out," I said, my throat tight. "Everything. The site, the servers, the bank." Her face paled. "Dad said it's temporary." "Tyler's just..." She stopped. "Tyler's just what?" I snapped, my voice echoing against the walls. She looked away. "Handling things." For a while. I stepped closer. "They voted me out." "He replaced me." Before she could answer, headlights swept across the living room. A courier van idled at the curb. Moments later, a knock thundered against the door. Sophie jumped. I opened it to find a man in a dark jacket holding a thick envelope. "Delivery for Mr. Carson," he said flatly, then disappeared into the night. Inside the envelope, notice of termination for cause. Cause, erratic behavior. Breach of fiduciary duty. Unauthorized system access. I almost laughed. I'd worked 27 straight days that month. I'd built the very systems they were accusing me of breaching. I flipped to the last page and froze. There it was. My signature. On a transfer of intellectual property agreement. The document stated I had signed over full ownership of my software and automation tools to the company. My own invention, the bid engine that had made us millions. The handwriting looked eerily like mine. But I hadn't signed it. My pulse roared in my ears. "Sophie," I said slowly, "who signed this?" She didn't answer. "Sophie." Her lips parted, but no sound came out. She backed away like a cornered animal. The baby monitor crackled with static. Outside, the neighbor's porch light flicked on, then off again. Somewhere down the street, an engine idled, low and steady. I turned toward the window, just in time for my phone to buzz again, a text from an unknown number. "Stop digging. Take the buyout." Attached was a photo of our mailbox. Taken 10 minutes ago, my blood went cold. Someone was out there, watching. I killed the lights and pulled Sophie behind me. The silhouette of a car glimmered in the dark, headlights off, idling just beyond the streetlight's reach. I raised my phone and started recording, zooming in on the plate, but the glare blurred it out. My breath fogged against the window. "This isn't over," I whispered. "Not even close." Then, as I reviewed the forged document again, something in the corner of the page caught my eye. Beneath my fake signature, in smaller print, was the witness line. The notary's name. I zoomed in, my hand trembling. It was Sophie. The room spun. My mind split in two, the husband who loved her, and the man realizing she might have just buried him alive. Outside, the car door opened. A figure stepped out, shadow long under the streetlight, and placed something in our mailbox before driving off into the dark. I didn't move for a full minute. When I finally opened the door, the cold air hit me like a slap. Inside the mailbox was a small, unmarked flash drive. No note. No explanation. I closed my fist around it and whispered the words that would define everything that came next. Game on. By sunrise, the cul-de-sac smelled like coffee, rain, and quiet betrayal. The world outside pretended to wake normally. Dogs barking, sprinklers hissing, neighbors waving as if nothing had burned down overnight. But inside me, something already had. The notary line under my forged signature haunted me like a ghost whispering through every breath. Sophie. I drove to the county clerk's office before the sun fully rose. The woman behind the counter typed in the document ID, yawning like it was just another Tuesday. When she handed me the verification page, my stomach turned. The notary stamp was real. The date was real. The witness name was my wife. No loophole. No technical error. She'd been there when they faked my signature, maybe even held the pen that betrayed me. By the time I reached the parking lot, my hands were shaking too hard to start the car. I called Jenna. She'd been my college roommate, once the funny girl who snuck coffee into lecture halls, now a ruthless attorney who could turn lawsuits into blood sport. She listened silently while I explained everything: the forged document, the lockout, the night visitor, the flash drive. Then she said something that hit harder than any legal argument. They didn't fire you. They erased you. Her voice turned cold, clinical. You're going to fight, and we're going to burn every lie they built. She sent over one of her forensic guys, a quiet, middle-aged man with reading glasses and hands that looked steady enough to perform surgery. He spent an hour with the documents, scanning every pixel. Then he gave me 5 words that felt like a bullet to the chest. This signature was pasted on. At home, Sophie was already awake, making pancakes for our daughter, pretending that everything was fine. She didn't look surprised to see me. Her smile was soft, rehearsed, like someone reading from a cue card. It's complicated, she began before I said a word. Dad panicked. Tyler's just trying to help stabilize things. Stabilize? I laughed, a sound too sharp to be human. By cutting me out of my own company? She set the spatula down, eyes wet. Please don't make this harder. They just want peace. Sign the separation agreement, take the payout, and walk away. Walk away? I repeated. After what they did? She slid the papers across the counter like a peace offering. I skimmed them. 2 months' pay. Full gag clause. A non-compete so broad it might as well ban me from breathing near a computer. I laughed again, but this time it broke into a coughing fit. My chest hurt like the truth was trying to claw its way out. I built that company, I said quietly. Every contract, every client. I gave your father millions. Sophie's lip trembled. You gave him more than money, she whispered. You gave him control. Jenna's team started digging within hours, and what they found made my blood run cold. Hidden among vendor payments were transfers to a shell company registered in Delaware, because of course it was Delaware. The name North Star Air Services. The payments matched our largest contracts down to the dollar. Every single one labeled consulting fees. The beneficiaries? Tyler Harper and Frank Harper. I felt bile rise in my throat. North Star. Air Services. They weren't even trying to hide it. They'd been siphoning company profits into a shadow account, stealing from me under the banner of legacy. I opened the flash drive left in our mailbox the night before. Inside was a string of server logs, time-stamped data only someone from inside the system could have extracted. Whoever had left it wanted me to know the truth. The log showed that at 2:02 a.m. someone cloned my repository, the engine I'd coded line by line. The account used was AirAdmin. The IP address traced back to our lake house Wi-Fi, the same lake house where we'd spent last summer. Family vacation, jet skis, barbecue, fireworks. I remembered laughing with Tyler by the dock, thinking he'd finally accepted me as part of the family. I remembered Frank's proud pat on the back, Sophie holding our baby, the sky exploding with color. It had all been a setup. There was a folder on the drive titled July 4th Fireworks. I clicked it open. The video started with sparklers and laughter, but as the camera drifted toward the dock, the laughter faded. The lens zoomed on Frank and Tyler talking quietly. The audio was fuzzy, but when I turned the volume up, the words came through clear enough to shatter everything. "He trusts us," Frank said. "He built the engine," Tyler replied, smug. "We built the story. Once the board votes, he's out," Frank grunted. "And Sophie?" There was silence, then Tyler's voice again, low and venomous. "She'll choose the house, not the man." My vision blurred. My heartbeat became a dull roar in my skull. I'd been surrounded by them, by smiles, laughter, hugs, and all the while they were planning the moment they'd bury me. I texted Jenna, my fingers trembling, "Pull banking subpoenas and bring a notary expert." Her reply came seconds later. "Already filed." That's when Sophie appeared in the doorway of my office. Her eyes were red from crying. "Dad wants to have dinner tonight," she said softly. "He wants to make peace. Please, just hear him out." "Peace?" I said, "after he forged my life?" She bit her lip, the same nervous tick that used to melt me when we first met. "For our daughter. Please." I stared at her for a long time. Finally, I nodded. "Dinner," I said. "Sure." As we walked to the car that evening, the air felt heavier than usual. Clouds rolled in, bruised and low. Sophie's hand brushed mine, and I didn't pull away. But when we reached the car, something made me stop cold. A black SUV idled across the street. Its windows were tinted, impossible to see through. As we got in, it rolled past slowly, like a predator circling prey. Then a hand extended from the passenger window and pressed a Polaroid against our windshield before speeding off into the dusk. The picture showed me Jenna and the forensic expert sitting in a diner booth earlier that morning, taken through the window. On the back, scrawled in bold black ink, were 3 words: "You're out of time." Frank chose a steakhouse straight out of a banker's dream. Mahogany booths, waiters in pressed white shirts, the faint scent of old money and arrogance hanging in the air. It was the kind of place where deals were toasted, not discussed. When I walked in with Sophie at my side, Frank already had a glass of red wine in his hand, his smile polished and hollow. Tyler sat beside him, scrolling on his phone, wearing a suit he didn't earn and a smirk he didn't deserve. "Family," Frank said, raising his glass. "We made it." His tone was syrupy, the kind that hid venom underneath. Tyler bumped my shoulder with fake brotherly warmth. "Glad you finally came to your senses," he said. I smiled back, a smile sharp enough to cut. "Actually," I replied, sliding an envelope across the table, "I came to return a favor." Frank frowned, his brow furrowing slightly as he looked at the envelope. He opened it, his eyes scanning the pages inside. His face shifted from mild curiosity to confusion, then to a slow, growing panic. The paper trembled slightly in his hand as he reached the line marked UCC1 Financing Statement. 18 months ago, I'd quietly filed that statement, securing my $500,000 founder's loan against all company assets. It was my insurance policy, buried in the system, forgotten by everyone but me. The filing gave me a legal lien over everything: trademarks, software, receivables, even office furniture. And now it was time to cash it in. "Default," I said calmly, tapping the line that listed the repayment milestones. "You missed every one of them." "I'm exercising remedies." Tyler leaned forward, his grin faltering. "This some kind of bluff?" "Check the date," I said. "It's recorded." "Public record, ironclad." Frank's face turned the color of bad whiskey. "You'd really do this?" "I don't need to," I said. "I already did." At that cue, 2 men in gray suits entered the restaurant like ghosts, calm, efficient, carrying envelopes. "Process servers." The waiter froze mid-step as they approached the table. One handed Frank a temporary restraining order motion. The other placed one in front of Tyler. The order was clear: cease all use of proprietary software, freeze company accounts, and preserve evidence related to North Star Air Services. Any violation would lead to contempt charges. The noise of the restaurant faded. Fork stopped midair. The air was electric. A third server stepped toward Sophie with another envelope. I held up my hand. "Not her," I said. My voice was steady, but it hurt to hear it tremble in my own ears. Frank's hands clenched the paper so hard the edges tore. "You'd destroy your own family over money?" He growled. I looked him dead in the eye. "I didn't destroy anything." "You did." He leaned in, his breath sour with wine and fury. "Walk away with your pride, son," he hissed. "Or I'll salt the earth beneath you." I smiled faintly. "You already salted it," I said. "I'm just planning mines." Tyler slammed his fist on the table, startling the waiter. "You can't win this, man." "We have everything, press, clients, narrative." "You had everything," I interrupted. "Now you have a lawsuit." Sophie's eyes were wide, torn between terror and disbelief. "Please," she whispered, "just stop." But it was too late. The servers were gone, and the fallout had begun. Outside, rain slicked the parking lot, turning it into a mirror of headlights and regret. I walked Sophie to the car, both of us silent. The night felt heavy, pressing against my skin. As I reached for the door handle, a police siren wailed softly nearby. Then a cruiser pulled into the lot, lights flashing blue and white. 2 officers stepped out, rain glinting on their jackets. "Sir," one of them said, "we received a call. A report that you were threatening your wife." The world tilted. "What?" I stammered. "That's insane!" Sophie's face drained of color. No, I didn't." But the second officer was already reading from his tablet. "Anonymous tip line. Caller described an argument in this parking lot. Said it sounded violent." The same black SUV from before glided slowly down the street, headlights dim. Tyler stood by the restaurant entrance, phone in hand, watching us with a smile so thin it could cut glass. "Are you kidding me?" I snapped. "This is a setup." The officers didn't react. They separated us, asking mechanical questions in low tones. My lungs felt stapled shut. I could see Sophie crying softly beside the second officer. Every part of this scene was orchestrated, planned, rehearsed, and executed with precision. And then, like thunder breaking through the storm, Jenna appeared. Her car screeched into the lot, heels hitting the pavement like gunshots. She flashed her badge to the officers. "I'm his attorney," she said sharply. "That claim is false. And we have evidence of harassment." She held up my phone, screen glowing with the photo of the SUV's license plate and the Polaroid from earlier. "They've been stalking my client for 2 days. You'll find this plate linked to a private investigator paid through the Harper Company accounts." The officers exchanged looks. One stepped back. The tension cracked slightly, but not enough to breathe easy. Then my phone buzzed. A new text. Unknown. "Courts are slow. Accidents are fast. My skin went cold. Pack your things," Jenna said quietly. "We're not going home." By midnight, we were holed up in a hotel under a false name. The air conditioner hummed, the only sound in a room thick with fear. Jenna filed for an emergency hearing by dawn. I watched the baby's monitor feed on my phone, the soft jingling of her mobile sounding like a lullaby from another world, a world that no longer belonged to me. At 3:11 a.m., my phone lit up again. A flood of emails. Subject lines in red. Server down. Contract error. Bid engine malfunction. I opened one, then another. The system I'd built, the lifeblood of every city. Contract had been remotely accessed and shut down. Tyler had flipped the kill, switched the same code I wrote to. Build Their Empire was now being used to burn it, down along with my name, and at 6:03 a.m., Channel 7 broke the headline. Hospital wing shut down over contract dispute. There was our company logo, and beneath it my name, labeled in bold white letters, disgruntled ex-employee. The courthouse smelled like old carpet and fear. The kind of fear that hides behind ironed suits and polite smiles. Frank arrived first, wearing a navy jacket and the kind of smug composure only a man convinced of his own invincibility could pull off. Tyler followed, his tie the color of arrogance, scrolling on his phone as if the day was just another meeting. Sophie walked between them, head down, eyes glassy. For a second, she looked up, and I saw guilt flicker behind the mask she'd built. Then she looked away. The judge entered with the indifference of someone who's seen too many families tear themselves apart over greed. "This is a family business dispute," she said after skimming through the filings Jenna had prepared overnight. "I'll order a preservation of evidence and set a hearing next week." Her tone was final. But that single word, next week, hit me like a sentence. Next week was forever when your software was keeping hospitals and schools alive. As we left the courtroom, the world outside had already turned on me. A crowd of reporters waited on the courthouse steps, cameras flashing like lightning in a storm. Did you sabotage your own company? Are you retaliating against your wife's family? Do you feel responsible for the hospital shutdown? Questions flew like arrows. Before I could answer, my phone buzzed. The hospital CEO's name lit the screen. His voice came through sharp and venomous. If one patient suffers because of this, he hissed, I will make sure you become the name parents use to scare their kids into honesty. Then he hung up. Jenna placed a steady hand on my shoulder. You're not losing control, she said quietly. You're regaining it. Trust me. That was when I gave her the command I'd been dreading. Turn it off. Her eyes widened. You mean all of it, I said. 10 minutes later, my software kill switch, a hidden clause in the system's DNA, activated across the network. Every unauthorized version of my code, every copy running under the stolen license, bricked itself. Servers froze. Machines went silent. The backbone of Frank's empire collapsed under its own theft. But the legitimate clients, hospitals, schools, city systems, had already received emergency patches, uploaded from a separate secure key. I'd saved what mattered. Burned the rest, the firestorm was instant. That night, Frank appeared live on Channel 7, standing before a wall of microphones and crocodile tears. He's extorting us, he shouted to the cameras. He's a hacker, a criminal. He stole from the very people who made him family. Then he pointed directly at the lens, his voice trembling with performative rage. He's not family. He's a mistake. That word hit harder than any accusation. A mistake. After everything I had built, given, sacrificed, he still saw me as disposable. The phone rang again. Unknown number. A whisper on the other end. My name's Olivia, the woman said, her voice shaking. I work in accounts. I can't watch this anymore. I sat up straight. Who's watching what? I've seen the books, she said. You were right. North Star Air Services isn't a consulting firm. It's a drain. They moved millions through it. PPP loans, forged invoices, even fake payroll. Frank and Tyler signed everything. She paused, then added, I just sent you proof. Within minutes, her email arrived. Screenshots, ledger exports, routing slips, transaction memos. The numbers didn't just prove greed. They proved crime. Among the attachments was a scanned copy of a PPP forgiveness letter, amended twice, signed on dates that didn't exist on the calendar. Fraud so sloppy it was almost arrogant. Jenna's eyes lit up like a storm. Wire fraud. PPP fraud. Tax fraud. They've crossed every federal line there is. She reached for her phone, dialing faster than I'd ever seen her move. I'm calling the state attorney general. This isn't civil anymore. It's criminal. While Jenna built the case, I sat on the hotel floor, surrounded by baby toys and silence. The hum of the air conditioner was the only steady thing in the room. Out of habit or desperation, I opened Sophie's shared photo album again. Scrolling past family vacations, birthdays, smiles that now felt counterfeit, I found a hidden folder buried deep under the sink logs. Inside was a single video, a screen recording of a family Zoom call. Frank's voice came first. Once he's out, we lock the marital assets. Sophie, are you in? Sophie's face appeared, lips trembling. I don't want to hurt him, she said softly. Tyler's smirk filled the next square. He'll land on his feet. He always does. Then Frank again, cold and final. He's not my blood. He's a tool. The silence that followed was deafening. I watched Sophie's expression collapse frame by frame, the heartbreak of someone who realized too late she was part of something monstrous. She was never the architect, I murmured. She was the leverage. Jenna looked up from her laptop, her tone softened. You know what you need to do when this is over. Before I could answer, my phone buzzed again, this time with an email from the IRS Criminal Investigation Division. The subject line read, Request for contact regarding anonymous submission. Jenna frowned. We didn't send anything yet. Then who did? I asked. Before she could respond, a new sound filled the room. 3 hard knocks on the hotel door. The air turned to glass. Jenna moved first, quietly slipping her laptop shut. I peeked through the peephole. 2 men in dark suits stood in the hallway, badges glinting under the flickering light. My pulse thundered. I opened the door slowly. The taller one spoke first, his voice calm, official. Mr. Carson? Federal agents. We have a warrant. For me? I asked. He shook his head. No, sir. He handed over the papers, the seal unmistakable. The warrant wasn't for me. It was for Frank Harper and Tyler Harper. Somewhere far away, thunder rolled over the city, and for the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe again. The morning they raided Frank's mansion, the neighborhood looked like a scene out of a suburban apocalypse. Flashing lights painted the quiet cul-de-sac red and blue. FBI jackets glimmered under the early sun as agents moved in tight formation, their boots crunching against gravel. Neighbors peeked from behind half-closed blinds, pretending they weren't filming, whispering into their phones. The golden god of the community, the man everyone toasted to at fundraisers and golf dinners, was being led out of his house in handcuffs. Frank Harper, my father-in-law, the man who called me son and then gutted my life from the inside out, now stood on his lawn with a face that had forgotten what arrogance looked like. Tyler came next. Dragged out half-dressed, still in his gym shorts, his wrists cuffed behind his back. He tried to laugh, tried to play it off, but the sound came out brittle. When one of the agents read him his charges, wire fraud, PPP abuse, document forgery, conspiracy, he choked on the air like it was glass. The SUV at the curb, the one that had haunted my nights, turned out to be a private investigator they'd hired through North Star Air Services, the same shell company that funded their crimes. Every thread, every lie, every dollar they'd siphoned was now unraveling in front of the world. Sophie stood barefoot on the lawn, clutching our baby against her chest. Her hair was tangled, her eyes swollen. When she saw me standing at the end of the driveway, her lips parted but no words came out. In her gaze I saw everything. Remorse, confusion, heartbreak. I didn't know it would get this big, her eyes said. I'm sorry. Please help. I walked over, gently took the baby from her arms, and turned away. She collapsed into Jenna's embrace, her sobs quiet against the chaos around us. The empire Frank built on my back fell apart within weeks. My lien, the quiet insurance I'd filed years ago, triggered under Article 9. The assets, frozen by the court, were mine to claim. One crisp Tuesday morning, in a silent warehouse lit by flickering bulbs, I bought back everything at auction for less than the price of a used Honda. No one wanted a company branded by scandal and corruption. I renamed it Neighborhood Build, a simple name for a new beginning, and handed 49% of it to the employees who had stayed when the world burned. The people who'd believed in me, not in the Harpers. Together we started from scratch. The same hospital that once called to threaten me sent a thank you letter 2 weeks later. We've never seen faster recovery on systems, it read. You saved lives. Those words did what revenge never could. They restored a piece of me I thought I'd lost. Frank's circle of power evaporated overnight. His golf buddies stopped returning his calls. His business partners turned state's evidence. Even the steakhouse where he used to hold court lost his reservation. Tyler's Instagram disappeared. His carefully curated life of cars, watches, and fake humility wiped clean. The suburban royalty had been dethroned, and no one wanted to remember their names. Meanwhile, I filed for divorce. There was no shouting, no courtroom theatrics, no vengeance. Just paperwork, quiet and precise. I made sure every dollar for our daughter's future was documented in boring, predictable spreadsheets. Sophie signed without resistance. I didn't hate her. I couldn't. She was another casualty of Frank's control, a pawn who'd believed loyalty would save her. I gave her space, peace, and boundaries, strong enough to protect us both. Then came the message that would rewrite everything I thought I knew. Olivia, the accountant who'd exposed North Star, asked to meet at a small cafe near the courthouse. She looked nervous, glancing at every passerby as if the past might walk in wearing a disguise. You should know why I sent the IRS that packet, she said quietly. It wasn't just justice. It was personal. She slid a thin folder across the table. I kept a copy of something. You need to see it. Inside was a single letter, handwritten, its paper yellowed and edges singed like it had survived a fire. The date hit me first, the year before I joined the company. The addressee hit me harder. It was addressed to Eleanor Carson, my mother. My breath caught in my throat as I unfolded the page. Frank's handwriting was unmistakable, sharp, confident, cruel. I saw him at the hardware store, it read. He's got your eyes. If he ever comes near what's mine, I'll take everything he loves. The words blurred as I read them again and again. I remembered that summer, the hardware store job before college, the man who'd glared at me across the lumber aisle muttering, "Some kids don't know their place." I thought he was just another bitter old man. I was wrong. He was Frank. My chest tightened. The air turned thick. He hadn't just betrayed me, he'd targeted me. He'd known exactly who I was all along. The man who abandoned my mother, who never claimed me, had recognized his own blood and decided to ruin it. He'd built me up, made me his golden son-in-law, only so he could destroy me from the inside, erase me from the family he'd chosen instead. Jenna's hand touched my shoulder, grounding me in a world that suddenly felt unreal. "He knew," she whispered. "He knew the whole time." I nodded slowly, staring through the cafe window at the street beyond. The noise of traffic, the smell of coffee, the hum of normal life, it all seemed so far away. "He didn't just take my company," I said. "He tried to take my bloodline." That night, I drove alone to the lake house. The same dock from the 4th of July video where everything started. The same place where I first heard them plotting. The moon hung low over the water, its reflection rippling like a wound that wouldn't close. I took the letter from my pocket, read it one last time, then set it on fire. The flames curled the paper into ash before I tossed it into the lake. It sank slowly, swallowed by the same darkness that birthed all of this. A month later, I stood in court again, this time to watch sentencing. Frank looked smaller somehow, as if the walls had taken pieces of him. The judge read off his years like tombstones: 10 for fraud, 5 for conspiracy, 3 for forgery. Tyler got less, but enough to end his illusions. Frank turned in the aisle, eyes glistening, as if to offer an apology. I met his gaze and for the first time felt nothing. Outside, cameras flashed. A reporter shouted my name. I paused and said one thing for the record. Blood is biology. Trust is math. And the bill always comes due. I strapped my daughter into her car seat. Sophie slid into the passenger seat, eyes rimmed red but clear, free. We drove past the cul-de-sac where porch lights blinked like Morse code gossip, heading toward a neighborhood that didn't know our names. At the first red light, my phone buzzed. A new contract, 3 schools, 1 hospital, and a shelter roof that couldn't wait. I smiled, tapped accept, and drove on. The past could keep its ghosts. I had work to do. And this time, the family I built would be the kind you choose. 1 signature, 1 heartbeat, 1 honest day at a time.